The last thing we're going to do is use particles to make a school of fish. So I've deleted the particles from my previous scene, and I am going to import the fish animation file that I've uploaded into Canvas for you. You can do this with any piece of geometry. I just wanted to make a nice low poly model with a really simple animation. This fish has 24 frames and it goes like that. So it's a really, really simple animation. What I want to do is I want to make a whole school of these fish. So I'm going to start by taking a look at the fish. The fish is animated via this thing called a sign handle. And let me take the sign handle. I'm going to right click and add it to the original fish geometry layer. So now they both turn on and off at the same time. The fish is really simple. It's low poly, the UVs are mapped, it's got a AI standard surface assigned to it, but it's nothing fancy. You can do what we're about to do with any model and any animation. I always recommend low poly for starters, and then you can add to that and do as much as you want. So with this, in order to make a whole school of fish, what I want to do is I want to be able to assign the fish to a group of particles. If I made a standard emitter that would make an infinite number of particles, I would prefer to have a finite number of particles, especially since I'm not really sure what my computer is going to handle. For that, we're going to use a tool called the particle tool. The particle tool, all I have to do is start it running, and then I'm going to click some points. Let me zoom way out so I can make a big school of fish. Every place I click is going to be another fish, and when I'm clicking, I know it looks like I'm clicking in the perspective view. I'm actually using the top orthographic view here. So this tool does place particles only in 2D space. I can change that later on, but for the moment my school of fish is going to be kind of flat. So that is my school of fish. It's called Particle 1. I'm going to rename it and call it School of Fish underscore particle. All right. Now assigning the fish model to the particle would be pretty easy, but I don't want to assign the fish model, I want to assign a whole fishy animation. Particles aren't great with understanding animation because animation is full of all of these changes that happen to the model at a vertex level that I'm not really seeing. So in order to make the animation simple enough that the particle can handle it, what I need to do is I need to separate out the animation into 24 separate models. The particle can understand 24 separate models. It's fine with 24 separate models. Fortunately, this process is really easy. All I have to do is take the fish. I'm going to hold down my spacebar so that I don't have to change menus. Here in my hotbox, I'm going to use this Visualize menu. Under Visualize, I'm going to use Create Animation Snapshot. You generally want to run that through the option box. I'm going to be using Start End, frames 1 through 24. You could use the time slider so long as your time slider is set from 1 to 24. That's fine. I'll increment every one, and we'll just say Snapshot. When I do that, I get a new node called Snapshot Group 1. If I open that up, you'll see that it contains these nodes called Transform 1 through Transform 24. I'm going to go ahead and turn the original fish off. Now I can take these nodes. They've moved back into 1 mode just to make rendering easier. I'll move them to 3 mode. That's fine. I'm going to take my snapshot group, stick it on a layer. We'll call this one the snapshot layer. And let's make sure that my nomenclature is consistent, so we'll use an underscore. Okay, Next, in End Particles, I'm going to open up a window called the Instancer. This is one that you want to run through the option box every time. My particle instancer name I'm going to call Fish Particles. I think I've already done this once and it just remembered what I wanted to do, so make sure that you give this a name. Rotation units is degrees, XYZ is fine, level of detail is geometry. Your cycle may be set to none by default. You want to set this to sequential. Our step unit is frames, the cycle step size is 1. Next, I'm going to grab all of my transform nodes and I'm going to click this Add Selection button here so that they get loaded in as instanced objects, all 24 of them. And then my particle object instance is going to be my school of fish particle shape. All of that is fine. The only other thing that I want to change is way down at the bottom. My cycle start object I'm going to set to particle ID, and that means that each of the particles will start at a different place in the animation sequence. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. Now I can say apply. And if I turn off the snapshot layer, you'll see there is my beautiful school of fish. If I hit the play button, they will all fall slightly. 24 frames isn't enough, so let's bring this out to 200. And now you'll see them all fall as the gravity takes them. So beautiful. So let's grab that nucleus node, reset this back to 0, pull over to my attribute editor, and because we are swimming in water, I think that I am going to turn off gravity. I'll use a little bit of air density, a little bit of wind speed, and let's throw in a little bit of wind noise as well. And perhaps my wind direction looks like it should be Z instead of X. So I'll zero out X, I'll put a 1 in Z, and now when I hit play, there's my school of fish. Swim, swim, swim. If you want them to swim faster, you put in more wind speed. And the next time the animation starts, they should go a little bit faster. Once you've done this with the school of fish, it's the same steps for anything. So if you wanted to have a cloud of butterflies, or like I said, I usually do this with an ant, so we can do a little ant army. Anything you want, this is the very introduction, the very barest introduction to crowd simulation. There are specialty softwares people use for battle scenes, but this is the basics of how it works. So I hope that you've enjoyed making this school of fish, and I hope that you are able to make your own school of fish. Enjoy!